Owners of wayward pets that end up in the Nacogdoches Animal Shelter now have 3 days to contact animal services before their pets become a ward of the city.
Actually followed a 3-day policy here since before I started working here for the city, and that's been over 8 years ago. So the policy itself has been in place for strays and that kind of thing, but we didn't have anything that stipulated a set time frame for transfer of ownership with animals that were surrendered by somebody other than their owners. So we just needed to get that in the code and make that an actual legal statement.
Jordan said people generally surrender strays they find in their neighborhood. There has also been issues when law enforcement
We get people that find them out in the county. We get animals that are in the county that are strayed. We don't work outside the city limits for animal pickups and that kind of thing. So we're strictly a city shelter. So the sheriff's department, if they get complaints out in the county about animals running loose and chasing their animals, their kids, their livestock, that kind of thing, the sheriff's department will pick them up, bring them in here. We get our animal control officers will receive calls that we have strays, and people will schedule appointments to surrender animals that they have found running loose in their neighborhoods too. So we get them in a variety of different ways. We also get people that get arrested that have their animals with them at the time of their arrest, and animals come to us that way because the police department obviously can't take the dogs or cats with them to the jail.
Pets whose owners are out of town must contact the shelter to report they are out of town in order to receive an allowance to come and claim their pet before they become a ward of the city.
Recently had somebody that was out of town, had a pet sitter, dogs got out while the pet sitter was babysitting. We allowed the pet sitter to reclaim the animal because we verified with the owner that they had somebody in place for that. If the pet owner is out of town, they shouldn't be leaving the animals for multiple days or 3 days at a time because that's not allowed without somebody taking care of them. So if the dog does get out or the cat does get out, then the caretaker should be contacting us to find out if we've got the animal, if we picked it up, that kind of thing. If we are notified that they're out of town and they can't come in and pick the animal up within that 3-day time frame, we notify them, when are you getting back in town? We'll make allowances for certain cases like that. We're not going to take somebody's pet just to be taking somebody's pet.
Jordan said the ordinance change allows the shelter to gain control of the animals as well as trying to get the animals into new homes and lower their euthanasia numbers.
I gave an example in our council presentation with an incident where we had animals that were surrendered to us by law enforcement in the incident where somebody was arrested. And we had 4 kennels occupied for over, in one case, over 50 days, and the other 3 kennels were occupied for over 100 days. That means those 4 kennels occupied during that time were kennels that we couldn't bring in animals. We couldn't do anything with those animals. They were owned, but they weren't able to come and get them, and they didn't make arrangements for somebody else to do that. So this allows us to gain control of that animal and find a home for it and get it out of the shelter so that we're not having to, when we have to, if we have 10 animals coming in and there's 4 kennels that are occupied, what does that mean? That means we're having to clear space, which means those kennels that are occupied with animals we can't move are decreasing our number of active kennels that we can operate with. So that means 4 extra animals are going out the door. And that's in a negative way. I mean, people don't want that. Our staff doesn't want that. We don't want to euthanize animals. It's something that is necessary in a city shelter sometimes, but we're doing our best to make sure that we can get animals into homes and keep our euthanasia numbers down.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. Would you like to add anything else? I'm Elena Barnes reporting for BPJ News.